What is going on, guys? So today I'm going to cover a pretty simple little topic, and that is the officer and enlisted pay gap, how much both of those make, why do officers get paid so much more than enlisted soldiers, and then kind of looking at the pay chart, if you don't know what the things actually mean and how to actually look at it and kind of gauge where your actual pay is going to be when you reach a certain rank. I'm going to talk about that in this video. Now, just recently, I made a video on why you should be an officer, and the first thing that I talked about was the pay. Officers get paid more money than enlisted soldiers. That is just a fact. And when you come in as a fresh new second lieutenant, your pay is going to be roughly about a E6 to E7, depending on how many years they have in service, which we'll look at the pay charts and everything here in just a second. But the reason that I wanted to make this video is just because I think it's kind of interesting. I know a lot of you don't really think about it that much, or maybe you don't think how much they do get paid more. And if that was something that you are interested in, which I do not suggest joining the military for pay or bonuses. I just want to get that out there. I do not suggest it, guys. Like, don't look at a bonus that you see on your enlistment contract and be like, yeah, that's great, I'm definitely going to join. Don't look at the pay for an officer and be like, yes, I want to be an officer just because of the pay. This is just an informational video, right? The only thing that I would suggest as far as becoming an officer, if you want to be enlisted and you don't want to be an officer, or you don't choose to be an officer, but you do plan on retiring in the military, then I do highly suggest that at some point in your military career, once you reach like E6 or something, depending on how fast you make that, or E7, you switch over to the officer side, be an officer for about 4, 5, 6 years, and then retire, because your retirement pay is going to be a lot more. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about whenever it comes to this pay chart, I'm going to talk about my pay right now because I'm a second lieutenant. So when you look at a pay chart, you're going to see on the far left side, whenever you're looking at military pay, it's going to see how many years of service the person has in. And then because of that, however many years you have in the military, your pay is going to go up every single year, right? Or every 2 years. So for the 2019 pay chart, an officer, a second lieutenant, just fresh into the military, no military experience whatsoever, with 2 years or less experience, is going to be doing about $3,188 a month, right? So now comparing that over to the enlisted side, I've got this on my phone, so I'm looking at it. When you reach the rank of E6, or the pay grade of E6, and then you're in for somewhere between 4 and 6 years, that is going to be like the entry point for an officer, right? So for an officer with no military experience, the entry point of pay is about the same amount of time you would have spent in if you were in for 4 to 6 years, you made it to E6. It is possible to make it to E6 in 6 years, just so you guys know. So if you made it faster than that, then it's about that same amount of pay, but usually around 3 to 4 years to make it to E5, and then a couple more years to be E6. Now, the one little cool thing for me, as far as, because I was enlisted before becoming an officer, I don't have less than 2 years of experience in, right? So my 4 years of time in service is literally like next week or so. So as an officer, it's not gonna make a difference whether it's 3 or 4 years as an O1, but my pay is gonna jump up from $3,188 to $4,011, just because I had those 3 years of enlisted experience. So if you are wanting to go enlisted and then switch to officer early on in your career, when you become an officer at the very kind of beginning, it's gonna be a nice little pay jump. Like, that's like $1,000 a month extra just for that little bit of enlisted experience that you get. Now, for that $4,000, whenever you look over to the enlisted side, like, at what rank is that, right? So I'm a fresh second lieutenant. I'm making about $4,000 a month active duty pay, but that's about the same as an E7 with 10 years of experience, which is kind of just ridiculous. Now, the last little example I want to show you guys in relation to the officer enlisted pay gap, right, is when an officer reaches the rank of captain, which is a very highly populated rank in the military for officers, they're going to be making somewhere around $5,600 to $5,900 a month. And that's with about 4 to 6 years of experience in the military. And then on the enlisted side, that's about as much pay as an E9 sergeant major who's been in for 20 years, which is just crazy. So again, you got this officer enlisted pay gap, which is again why I do suggest retiring as an officer if you can. If you can kind of stick it out, becoming an officer for just a couple of years and then retiring, that would be really beneficial as far as your retirement pay goes. Now, the one thing that I really want to talk about in this video, now that we've kind of gotten all this all officers make more than enlisted soldiers thing out of the way, why is it that officers make more money than enlisted soldiers? Or why do I think that is the case, right? So I'm gonna talk about that a little bit right now. So if you're still watching this video kind of towards the end, you know, congratulations to you. You are freaking amazing, right? So the first thing you gotta think about is officers are making more, you know, straight out the gate. Why is that, right? So an enlisted soldier coming in, they don't have, there's not like a full, you're never really actually gonna make a year's salary as an E1, because you should not be an E1 for longer than a year, or the same thing with E2, you should not be an E2 for longer than a year. You shouldn't be getting paid that, right? You're gonna rank up pretty quickly. But the reason being is a lot of E1s, E2s, E3s, lower enlisted soldiers, a lot of them are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. On the officer side, a lot of officers, when you're first coming into the military as an officer, you're going to be a college graduate. So number one, you're gonna have some college debt, possibly, if you didn't get any scholarship or anything through ROTC or OCS or whatever. If you didn't get anything like that, you're gonna have a little bit of debt that you gotta pay off. So if that's the case for you, that extra pay is gonna go to help pay off those student loans and everything like that. The other thing is you're just a little bit older. You're probably gonna have more bills and stuff. You might actually have a family. A lot of people have families and have kids and whatnot whenever they're 22, 23 years old coming out of college, right? So you're just straight up older. You're gonna have more things. You have a little bit more of a need for money because a 23-year-old is gonna have on average, probably a higher expense level than a 17, 18-year-old coming straight into the military, right? So that's something to think about. They just have a little bit more of a need for it, if that makes any sense whatsoever, right? That's just a small little point. The other reason is officers, they make the decisions, right? They make the big decisions, right? They are the ones who are planning everything out. They are the ones doing that stuff, right? If you think on the enlisted side, or if you think on the civilian side, right? Who gets paid the most in companies and corporations and whatever job? It's the managers. It's the ones that who are, they're the ones making the decisions, and the employees, the lower level employees, you know, the cash register, the person who's just working the desk or whatever, just the stock guys, right? So they're making a lot less because they're not really making that many decisions on how things are ran. They might be working harder, but they're not making as many decisions. If the world worked in a way that the harder you worked as far as like physical labor, the more you got paid, it would be a completely different world. But that's not the world that we live in. The world that we live in is basically the more decisions you make that have an effect, the more you're going to get paid, right? So you're a manager, like a small, let's say you're a store manager of some civilian company, you know, you're gonna get paid a certain amount because you're gonna be making decisions that are going to affect that store. Then you go up to like a district manager, you're gonna have a whole bunch of stores that your decisions are affecting, right? And then you get up higher and higher. The higher you go, the more you're gonna get paid because the bigger your decisions are. Now, when you're enlisted, it is going to take several years for you to get to a point to where you're really making decisions that aren't really affected by anything else that are really going to make a big impact. And the higher rank you go as an enlisted soldier, you are going to be making bigger and bigger decisions that are going to affect more and more people. But officers, right out the gate, you're going to be making decisions that are going to be affecting multiple people. Again, it's going to take you a while as an enlisted soldier to make a decision that's going to affect a lot of people. Officers, right out the gate, you're going to be making those types of decisions. Now, there's this like saying or something as far as like how much you get paid in this world. Now I'm gonna kind of paraphrase this because I don't remember it word for word, but I've thought about it, you know, a lot over the past like couple of years, right? Your worth is basically equal to the size of the problems that you're solving, right? So the bigger the problem that you're solving, the more you're going to get paid, the more you should get paid, if that makes sense. So you got a big problem, you get paid more. You got small problems, you get paid less. Again, on the enlisted side, you're not going to be solving as big of problems that are going to impact as many people as officers that are going to be solving a little bit bigger problems that are going to be affecting a lot more people. Now that, in a nutshell, is really kind of the reason why officers are paid more. In my opinion, they kind of have all the responsibility of all those big decisions that they have to do. Whether you think that's fair or not, whether you think big people or, you know, a fresh second lieutenant should be making more than, for my example, an E7 who's been in for 10 years, that's up for debate or whatever. But that's just kind of the way things are. You're in the military, the higher rank you go, the bigger decisions, the bigger problems you're going to be solving, right? And then on the officer side, like right out the gate, you're gonna be solving problems that are gonna affect more people. So if you are one of the lucky few who made it to the end of this video, hit that like button. That would be awesome. If you want to stick around for some more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That would be even better. And if you really want to make my day, hit the notification bell button. That would be freaking amazing. Follow me on Instagram and Snapchat if you haven't already. Hope you guys have an amazing freaking day, and I will see you later.